Hey there everybody, this is a little bit of a video on getting my 1947 pond lever steer ready for the next plow day in Wisconsin. Enjoy. That's right, 1947 pond lever steer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go plowing. So before we start, I just want to kind of go over this little project. I have not been able to find dimensions on this lift handle or this lift mechanism. I kind of fudged an existing bent rod. I used my 20-ton Weaver press to give it a little bit of attitude and get it straightened up, kind of. But I've got this plow working pretty good, I think. I had to weld on a new suck point and I reinforced the back of it pretty good. It's greased up right now, but otherwise I got most of the paint off, and hopefully it'll shine right up once I stick it in the dirt. There are 4 locking collars on this shaft. 2 of them are just holding the rod into the bracket, the seat mount. 2 of them are welded together to this lift arm that I built. This is an over center. It's actually pretty easy. Before I bent it, I chucked it up on the mill and I cut flats there, and I stuck it in the lathe and cut those grooves. Now, if you would think on a practical manner, those grooves are about the dimension of my fingers. They're not equally spaced, but when I'm holding on to it, I've got grip. This is not a factory engine for the lever steers. We should be running a Briggs ZZP, but the Wisconsin AEN or AENL for this instance is the next best thing. There's a lot of character on this pond lever steer. There were only 50 of these built. There are less than 30 in known existence, I believe. And there's been a lot of repairs on this thing along the way. That should probably be a solid rod with pins. The steering arm should probably not have a lug nut. It should not have a bell reducer. It should not have plug welds. It's been beat up. It's been worked. We don't know the whole history of this thing. The wheels have been broken and welded. One of them has different camber than the other. Most likely, that's kind of how the wheel got broken. Both of them have been welded. Most people would tell me that this transmission bell housing is incorrect for the lever steers. Well, let's go ask Elmer and Cecil what they did on this particular unit. We just don't know. Most lever steers have a clutch where you push the clutch pedal and that engages. This is more like an automotive style Ford clutch where you push it in, select your gear, and release the clutch just like a vehicle. There are not a lot of videos out on YouTube about these lever steers. There are not a lot of lever steers to make videos about. And not many people are willing to stick them in the dirt. I got this thing to enjoy it. One thing I would like to say about this lever here is it's pretty beat, and I may end up rebuilding it. This is a trailing arm from the Ford rear end. This would have, or maybe a support arm. It would have, if an axle was here, I would go like this. Whoop, there's grease. If an axle's here, this arm would have been out here on a bracket and gone up to the front of the drive shaft tube or drive line. I don't know if you can hear that, but our local drum line is banging on the drums at school. I think they're cheering me on. So anyway, I do have another rear end with a good arm. I've thought about using it to rebuild this. I've also thought about just using flat plate for now and maybe a different drag link. I would like to plow the entire day with this at Uncle Jim's plow day, so we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna put you down, stick you in the dirt. I am running a little bit rich right now. I'm puffing a little black smoke out of the exhaust. I'm thinking probably before the plow day I'll put a new Champion D16 spark plug in this thing, but it is running pretty good. So I guess here we go. I did open this furrow up with my 1962 Wheel Horse 502 putt-putt, and that plow I can put 2 turns on, sink it in, make my first open cut, take my 2 turns back off, and I'm set. That one's dialed right in. So I got my furrow opened. Now I can try this plow because this plow is not very easily adjustable. Let's see how this goes. Okay, let's talk about this. I cut a furrow. Win. I did not go deep enough. Fail. I'm gonna have to figure out what kind of adjustments I can make. But I have limited adjustment on the plow and on the tractor. I might be able to figure out how to give myself a little bit more dig. I don't know if I can mount that bracket any lower, and so that way my overall lift would rise because this is a lever, and my overall dig would drop. This kind of shows how easy it is to work this. But one more issue I came across is that with this depth not being set properly, it wanted to come back up and get over center again and stay in the lift position. So I ended up running this whole furrow, which is only just a couple inches deep. I ran this entire furrow holding that lever back. Now let's talk about the tractor. I think I could easily gain some power from a fresh spark plug, maybe even leaning out the carb a little bit. It runs so good that I don't want to mess with it too much, but I think if I take a little bit of fuel off, I might be able to build a little more power. I never slipped a tire. I've got no added weight. I've got no fluid. These are tires from M.E. Miller. They're a Firestone mold made in Mexico, I do believe. Regency. This is all good testing. We're gonna make this thing a plow machine. So here we are with a flipped over bracket here. What that did was bring my plow frame a couple inches lower. I'm going to try that and see how it works in the dirt. I also added myself a little toolbox bolted onto an existing set of holes, so I've got a couple wrenches with me. You know, it is quite challenging to see exactly what's going wrong here. I don't know if I made my suck point too long. I don't know if there's too much material on the back side still that I need to grind away. It kind of feels like there might be. It could also just be soil conditions. This is hard ground. It hasn't been worked in quite a few years, but I'm just not getting the dig that I need. It seems like it's pushing the plow out of the ground more than pulling it down in. So I think I need to do some more grinding on that suck point and grind the bottom side of it, make it sharper, and go from there. I did, however, put about a quarter turn in on this high idle screw and managed to get the smoke out of the exhaust. Managed to get it to run with a stronger sounding pop than it was. It was kind of just flooding out. I changed my spark plug. It's got a brand new D16 in it, but it just still wasn't, it was running a little rich. So I leaned it out, and we're in tip-top running shape. Now it's just getting it to plow. I just loosened the nuts on the back of that bracket on the front side of this angle iron, and I rotated the plow so it's got a little more bite. I also had a spacer over here pushing the plow over, and I saw that only like 6 inches of the plow are cutting. So I took that spacer out. Hopefully the plow will find its way over. If not, I might have to move this bracket to the next set of holes and then move this lever onto this side of the plow. It's still not great, but it's better. We're making improvements. Well, I believe that I finally made the correct adjustments needed to make this thing actually plow. I built a 4-inch drop for the brackets. It just seemed like I couldn't get the suck point low enough and it just would not cut. I gave a little support bracket. It's about 26 inches long. It comes up to this bolt here in the frame, and that's just to give that drop bracket some lateral support. It's a 3/16 inch plate, so I think it's plenty stout. It might be 1/4 inch. I guess I didn't measure it. But we are plowing. I'm finally getting some depth. I'm finally getting this thing to roll the dirt. I'm making a pretty good cut. I can definitely, I think, stand up the plow a little bit more. It might be laid over too far. This wall is laid at an angle, so I could probably pull my plow up a little bit, make some directional changes. But I'm ready enough for plow day. Final thoughts. I ended up building that drop bracket there, and it got the nose of the plow lower. And yesterday I had the pin in the top hole, and it seemed like the plow just wasn't digging any deeper. And I know that sometimes adjusting it to plow too deep is almost counteractive. So I brought it up one. I'm not so sure if I'm set with that, or maybe I'll go back down to the bottom. I also noticed that this C-channel piece right here, the holes were offset. So I was actually steering the plow away from where it should be cutting. What that was doing was giving me a ton of drag on the frog against the land side cut. So I was able to flop that C-channel around. It straightened out the plow quite a bit. I like that. I also took some measurements and figured that this spacer should give the plow a full 10-inch cut. So the inside of the front tire is right here, and that's my 10-inch cut. If anything, I might move that back to the top hole and give myself that little bit of depth left. I also, let's see, let's lift this up here. One finger. Let's see if we can do it with one finger. So easy. I also put a little bit of lead on this point. So I ground the top side of this down quite a bit. You can kind of see my angle. And I put that lead on, and I think that's helping to suck it down. I might grind some more. I might just leave it be. It's plowing, it's doing its thing. I'm pretty happy with that. This grounds, I'd say it's probably been 5 years or more since it's been cut. So it's not like this is ag land that gets turned often. And it seems to be cutting pretty well. I could definitely go deeper with my 502, and that's kind of my baseline. I would like to measure that. With this 10-inch plow, I should be around 5 inches of cut. And I mean, it feels like that when I drop down into it with my boot. I know that's, you know, maybe I am good. I'll have to measure that when I get a tape, but I bet that's 5 inches. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have never seen a 1947 pond lever steer plowing. So this is kind of, I don't know, new territory for me. It was just making adjustments to figure out how to make this plow cut the soil. I'm happy with the way it performs. You can definitely tell when there's a load on it, but that old Wisconsin did a dang good job. Second gear, you know, I'm probably only mid-throttle. I could actually run the throttle up a little bit. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. It is very easy to lift and lower. Like I said, I can do it with one finger. It stays very well when I'm driving, bouncing around or whatever, it stays up, and that's good. And now that I've got the plow adjusted, I don't have to hold this in the ground, so I can just flop it back and drive. I think I'm ready for plow day.